There is only a few weeks left in this campaign. You have got to stop saying things to the press that are blatantly untrue. That is not the kind of campaign that we are running here.
Campaign? Is that what you're calling this now?
Governor, I admit that this is a dysfunctional campaign, but that is what I inherited, and I'm doing my level best to help us win this election.
And that's what I'm trying to do too, Stephen. All you're doing is screwing me up. That's all you've done this entire time is get in my way.
Oh, that was the clip from the HBO movie Game Change, a political drama based on the best-selling book about the '08 presidential campaign and the McCain-Palin Republican ticket, where, of course, Woody Harrelson famously played. Our guest this morning, Steve Schmidt, loved that movie, as I've heard you rave about it as well. But we are on a different planet than we were in '08, let's be honest, so we won't dwell on all of that. You were giving your thoughts about Nikki Haley a minute ago, and I want to kind of go to the other side of the aisle here with the Democrats. You've said that you don't buy, and that we as a country should not buy the narrative right now that a Trump-Biden rematch means Biden coasts to a second term. I don't know anyone who was alive in 2016 who would buy into that narrative to begin with, but explain your reservations about Joe Biden, and if Joe were to step aside, who steps into that void? Because right now it seems like a real shallow bench for the Democrats.
Well, Democrats have across the country, whether it is Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, Gavin Newsom in California, Congressman Dean Phillips in Minnesota, Ambassador Rahm Emanuel in Japan. There are many Democrats who are ready to run a national campaign. President Biden, objectively, as a matter of fact, is unpopular. His numbers approval level are in the 30s. He is losing a head-to-head matchup against Donald Trump as an incumbent president. Over and over again, the political class, the leaders of the Democratic Party, the senators, many who are standing by Senator Menendez, are telling the American people you're going to get something that Democratic voters keep saying they don't want. Now, what James Carville has said, when you look at the fact that you may have Joe Manchin running, you may have Cornel West running, you may have Bobby Kennedy running, that could make this a 4 or 5 person race, which makes the task even more difficult for the Democratic Party. All elections are about the future. And there's a fundamental question on the table for the United States. So far, the election has fundamentally been about Joe Biden's ambition. But is the election, and should it be, about American democracy? You have a former president this week, and I'm not making this up. This happened. He threatened to execute a 4-star general who's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He threatened to lock up NBC journalists and to shut down Comcast and to close down the American media. These are serious, serious things in a free society by somebody who aspires to lead it. And there has not been an effective response to it, not just in the immediate moment, but really on a multi-year basis while President Biden has been in the White House. I understand why many Democratic leaders look and say, this has been a successful presidency, legislatively, foreign policy-wise, but the fact is, the American people do not believe this is the best economy in the world, and they do not believe that Joe Biden, as a function of his age, derivatively, therefore, is the wisest man in the United States. But those things have been argued over and over again, mostly on anonymous background quotes in the paper from Biden campaign staffers in Washington, and it's delusional. My perspective on this has always been very simple. I think that Donald Trump, and he has proven this, in my view, is a profound threat moving towards the 250th anniversary of the birth of the country. The effort to tear down democracy starts with the denial of the election. And I think the important thing for your viewers to understand, we can have an American society with a 95% top tax rate or a 5% top tax rate. We can't have an American society and sustain the American way of life if we don't have elections that recognize the results by the losers. I was the person who placed the concession phone call for John McCain to Barack Obama. That's the way the system works. And what has been broken in this country around that is dangerous.
Let me end on this note, and I hate to trivialize things, but we're up against the clock here a little bit. Let me ask you a series of yes and no questions. Do you think Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee?
No.
Who do you think will be the Republican nominee?
I don't.
Do you think Joe Biden?
I think Nikki Haley will be the Republican nominee.
Do you think Joe Biden will be the Democratic nominee?
No.
Who do you think will be?
I do not think he will be the Democratic nominee, but I can't tell you who in the party is going to emerge to challenge him. But I believe over the course of the fall, remembering that Lyndon Johnson did not get out of the race until March of 1968, there's still plenty of time for a challenger to get into the race. There was a story in Axios that talked about the elaborate stratagems that the White House staff employs to make sure the president doesn't trip. And the inference was in the story from the White House aides is the campaign is any day away from ending. And all of us are going to get old. All of us, our age, have, or a lot of us, have parents the president's age. And so the American people are seeing something and repeatedly being told what they're seeing isn't true. On another network, one of the anchors said, every single Democratic guest who comes on my show says one thing on camera and an entirely different thing off camera. All I'm doing this morning is talking about the things on camera that most Democratic senators and congressmen say out loud, but never on camera.
Literally up against the clock, 20 seconds, and I know it's hard. At the end of the day, Donald Trump is one man. His political success says much more about the nation than it does about him as a human being. In 15 seconds, what has changed or is changing in America that allows such an unconventional candidate to do so well?
The collapse of trust between the American people and nearly every institution creates the conditions for the rise of a demagogue, as does the fact that 60% of the country's living paycheck to paycheck and 40% doesn't have access to $400 in cash.
Steve Schmidt, founder of The Warning. Could talk to you for the entirety of the show. Always a good conversation. Thank you so much. Please come back. Love to have you back anytime. We'll be right back, everybody.